Welcome to episode 14 of the Dual Boot Diaries, the weekly podcast where two longtime Windows users learn to use Linux daily. I am one of your hosts, Adam Patrick Murray.
I'm the other co-host, Will Smith. We are not Linux experts. We are just some guys who are figuring out as we go. We're sharing our experiences in the hopes that it helps somebody else, or that it gives you a little bit of joy in telling us exactly what we did wrong. Theoretically, this whole thing is going to go on until at some point we sit down and we're like, you know what? I'm done with one of these OSs. Right now, we're dual booting. We got Windows on one partition. We got Linux on another partition, maybe a drive. And one day, one of those is going to go away, at least in theory. But until then, here we are.
Here we are
talking about Linux.
And wow, I will tell you what, we've hit some problems. We've had issues here and there, but it sounds like we both have had our own serious problems this past week, right?
Look, we've been in this week, man. That's all I can say is I at one point I was like, I'm just going to reboot and play some Fortnite on Windows. It's no problem. And then when I rebooted, nothing happened. And I was like, oh, that's unusual. And I was doing a live stream. So I was like, oh, well, okay, let me see if I can fix this. And then I couldn't. Turns out trying to troubleshoot boot issues while you're streaming to Twitch, not a great time for that activity. It's like multiple conflicting pressures on you to do different things, and meanwhile your friends are like, hey man, are you getting over here anytime soon? And you're like, no, it's gonna be a while.
Yikes.
So anyway, but that we'll talk about that, I guess, in a minute. I don't know who should go first here. We've kept the toothpaste in the tube this week.
We have. We started talking about it a little bit, or I started bringing it up a little bit yesterday during before the full nerd, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to you,
Adam, when I walked in the door, he just was like, I need a hug, and was like, give me a big Linux hug.
Oh boy. Before we do that, I do have a couple general things to get to. So we do have an upcoming interview that is locked in with the team behind Cosmic. Oh, cool. So we will be recording that in the coming weeks. I believe that is next Wednesday, the 5th. So if you have any questions that you would like us to ask the team behind Cosmic, then go over to the link in the description in the Discord, in the Linux channel. There's a thread that I've created to ask the team some questions. So I'm excited to chat with them. This is going to be our first time talking with a maintainer of a distro.
Yeah,
This
is like a long-awaited release for them because they've been working on Cosmic for a long time. It's their whole soup to nuts, top to bottom desktop environment. Basically for this, they built it for the System 76 laptops, right?
Well, yeah, but it's on a bunch of different distros, which
of course,
which I'll talk about in a minute. But I'm very excited about that. Get your questions in. The launch of the of Cosmic is the 11th. The official launch. It's been in beta, so that's why they're excited to chat with us, and cool. we're Linux experts over here, so why would they not want our feedback?
It's the number one Linux podcast in the universe. That's all I know.
Exactly. Another thing is quickly, there was people who were asking about antivirus. When in the episode where I talked with Mikey about antivirus, he didn't offer up any hard suggestions, but he did generally recommend some sort of light antivirus because any computing platform, even Macs, even Linux, can get viruses. Yes, there's less of a chance because Windows is so predominant that usually that's the vector, but there's no reason not to have some sort of light antivirus on. People have asked for some recommendations. A couple that I've gotten was Sophos and Clam. I've actually installed Clam on a couple of my installs. I don't think I have it on my current one, but just real simple kind of stuff. And then VPN. The VPN I use is Proton. I don't know if you have a VPN you use.
So I do WireGuard, but I just use it to VPN into the house when I'm away, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything to hide from a
you
coffee
got
shop
nothing to hide, man.
router holder, man.
Yeah, dude.
SSL is good enough for me, man. I'm just out here just doing some transactions and stuff. It's nothing shady, none of that dark web business that you're into, Adam.
Perfect. Yes, me all up in the dark web,
Captain Dark Web.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the last note is that a couple episodes ago, I think it was, I mentioned how my Ventoy drive kept getting like mucked
Corrupted.
up. Yeah, or something like, and I was very confused by it. Somebody over on Discord had flagged me and said, hey, they kind of ran into the same thing when they were trying to install Fedora, that there might be something like in the Fedora process that is like messing around with how things are partitioned on there.
Like their file manager or something, or
I like, honestly, I don't know. This is just a running theory. I'm throwing it out here not to say that it is a thing. I'm throwing it out here to see if anybody else has had that problem, because now that I look back and think about it, I never had that issue until I started installing Fedora. And so I'm like,
find another distro, man. It's like it's lasted 3 weeks.
Yeah,
you're back out.
No, I'm
Manjuro. Here you go, baby.
I'm still on Fedora. So much so that let me move into our topic, because in prep of the interview with the with the Cosmic team, I was like, oh, you know what? I should probably use Cosmic. So I went over there, and I hadn't really looked too much at it yet. It is still technically in beta, and I'm like, when I talked to the System 76 folks before, I was like, oh, hey, do you think I should try out Cosmic? And they were like, oh, wow, you're already looking into beta OSs. And I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. But then I was like, nah, for this interview, I should probably look at it just, so I get an understanding of it. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I started looking, and obviously there are different, this is a desktop environment. There is one for Pop! OS, but as I was looking down the list, one of the distros is also Fedora. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. This might be a good chance for me to see what the difference between Fedora is in the two, desktop environments, to fully understand if okay, do I actually like Fedora, or do I just like GNOME? And so I was like, oh, this is great. I was on my work trip. We went up to Intel. We talked about it over on the Full Nerd. If you want to hear about the performance lab team over there, really good conversations. We did talk a little bit about Linux. I did ask them on the tour. I forgot to tell you this in the Full Nerd yesterday. I did, when we were touring the lab, I was like, they actually had 2 setups running Linux, and they were doing some QA testing on it. And I was like, so Linux testing. Yeah. And they turned to me and they were like, man, the amount of people who have asked for Linux testing in the past 6 months has been greater than, in the past 10 years. And the lady that we were talking to was like, and I used to live with Linux developers or something, or she went to school with Linux. What I mean? She's like, I used to be surrounded by Linux people, and they never asked as much as it has in the past 6 months. So that was kind of interesting.
Okay, so it's funny because I expected you to tell that story and then be like, oh yeah, and they had a 486 back in a dark corner of a disused room that they were like, yeah, this is our Linux testing lab. That's cool. That's exciting.
No, they couldn't tell me the hardware they were testing it on. Probably some sort of unreleased hardware in the future.
It's a lake of some kind, I'm sure.
But the distro they were running was Ubuntu. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, huh? So
did you tell them? Did you tell them it's okay? Some people really like vanilla. That's totally okay.
I love vanilla. So we didn't talk too much about it. I just want to bring that up. Anyway, we were on that trip, and we had a little bit of downtime. We got there a little early, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to load Cosmic just for fun on this work trip.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Live Moss.
Yeah. And so on this Framework 13 laptop, I actually already had 2 partitions on my Linux drive. Because if you remember, I actually have separate SSDs, one with Linux, one with Windows. And on my Linux drive, I've been maining Fedora, but I actually still had a partition of Ubuntu on there because it was a fallback or whatever. I just had it on there, and I was like, okay, cool. All I'm going to do then is overwrite that Ubuntu partition and put Cosmic on there. So I downloaded Cosmic on my Ventoy, loaded it up, went through the install process. Really easy install. Like I appreciate a good easy installer. And
as much as you install different distros, it's important to you.
Yeah. So it was also different. It is funny to see the different kinds of installers. Like some of them are almost too simple. Some of them like have been a little too like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Well, but this one was pretty straightforward.
It's interesting. Like the partitioning, I kind of wish people did a choose your own adventure style partitioning guide, right? Especially with ButterFS and all the subvolume stuff you can do. Because a lot of distros that really embrace ButterFS make home folders and swaps and all of that stuff as subvolumes of one ButterFS volume or partition, which like makes a lot of sense. But sometimes, like on my desktop, I have multiple SSDs, and I want my home folder on a different SSD than that main folder. And I wish that there was like hey, do you want to put any of the folders on another? Like, I wish there was a little more user agency in that process. And now I realize I could just install Arch if I wanted user agency, because they all about user agency with that Arch install.
Right. Anyway, I was successful in saying, oh, okay, just overwrite the Ubuntu partition with Cosmic. Okay. And then I was like, perfect, this is going to be great. I've got my normal vanilla Fedora install, and then I've got Cosmic, and I'll switch between the two and play around. So I installed it, and then, prompted to be like, oh, hey, do you want to continue in the live environment, or do you want to reboot? Obviously, I wanted to reboot, pulled the drive, or shut down, pulled the drive, booted back in, and Grub popped up, and it was like, hey, Fedora Cosmic. And that was the only option, well, other than the UEFI. And like a fail-safe kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, I've seen this before. Actually, on my past install, anytime I would swap to the Windows drive, and then I would put the Linux drive back in, the boot manager would always default to Ubuntu, which Fedora came second, so the Ubuntu Grub would not show the Fedora, so I would just have to go into the okay. So I would just have to go in and swap it and be like, hey, boot Fedora first. So I was like, oh, that's probably what it is. It's probably just showing me Cosmic. So I went to the boot manager, and then so sure enough, it had 3 entries. One of them was Fedora, another one was Fedora, and then the last one was Ubuntu. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird that Ubuntu is there, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's probably pointing to nothing. And then I was like, okay, well, there's 2 Fedora ones, which is which? And I tried both, and unfortunately, they both gave me the same exact Grub login screen for Cosmic. And I was like, I actually think I had messaged you, and I was like, hey, I think I destroyed the tie to Fedora. Oh. So my normal Fedora install is there. When I'm in Cosmic, I'm able to mount that partition, put in my password, and I can see all my folders, my home folder, everything is in there. So that install still exists, but I have no way in Grub.
Oh, still?
Still, I was going to have you help me with it yesterday when we were in the office. Yeah. No. We ran out of time. So, and it's not a huge thing, but it was also just like, I don't know what to do here. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been using Cosmic on that laptop since this happened. It was bad timing because I kind of did need my laptop a little bit for the work stuff, but also that trip it was not a like time intensive trip. It was more like, oh, well, I kind of need to check some email and do some stuff like that. So I had to reset up Chrome and Slack and stuff like that. But yeah, how do you fix that? Do you know?
Well, so I did this. I had this very similar experience.
Oh, interesting.
Like I said, I'd been using Linux for several days. Everything was going well. And I started a stream, played some Arc Raiders, and then a 4th friend came on, and we were like, let's switch over to Fortnite because we can play 4 people together in Fortnite.
On your desktop?
So, on my desktop. So I was like, oh, I have to reboot to do this. I reboot, and I get a Windows error that says, hey, your boot configuration's messed up. We're not going to boot. It's like, oh, that's bad. So I look at it, and in retrospect, knowing what I know now, I absolutely did not have to reinstall Windows. I did the thing where I loaded up. I switched back to Linux real quick. Mm-hmm. I copied my profile folders out of my C users will folder on the Windows partition and dumped them all onto a separate NTFS drive where Windows could get to them later.
Okay.
And backed up everything else that I needed off that drive. Because I don't, we've talked about this before, I think, but I don't usually keep a lot of stuff on my C drive. It's basically just like the contents of app data and a couple of work folders in my documents folder. So it's not a big deal to have to reinstall. It usually takes me like an hour or two at the outside. I think what had happened was that I didn't dismount. I mounted my C drive to grab a file off of it from inside Linux. And I think I didn't dismount it properly before I rebooted. So I think it had some sort of hook that made Windows think something was jacked up with the drive, so it wouldn't access that drive. And like I said, now I think I'm pretty sure I know how to fix that. At the time, not so much. So I did a quick reinstall.
Just quick, Windows 11 is just such a quick, seamless install
I told
process.
it I didn't want Game Pass. I told it I didn't need. It thanked me for having Office 365 and tried to sell it to me again. And I was able to do the OBE bypass, so that was nice.
Was this 25H2 the newest?
No, I just did 24H2.
Oh, you did 24. Okay. Yeah.
I used what was on my thumb drive.
Oh, got it. Real quick. Once again, I have done a lot of Linux installs.
Yeah.
And listen, I've done a ton of Windows installs. I know how to get through that installer, as quickly as I can. That installer is so overbearing, and it's so slow.
One?
The Windows one is just so slow. And like, take away the fact that you can't do a local account unless you do, hacks like we do.
Yeah.
Like even that. Like, you still have to go through all those screens of like, oh, hey, phone link. Oh, hey, Game Pass. Oh, hey, 365. And it's just like over and over and over again. And there's not, like, in the Linux installs, a lot of it is, the same thing, you're creating accounts, but luckily they're local. You can figure out like partitioning and stuff like that. But a lot of it is more like, oh, hey, what kind of desktop environment maybe do you want? Like, it's a lot more like
install audio editors and video editors and stuff like that out of the box, or you want to do it later?
Yeah, it's more like actual configuration of what you're going to boot into. Where the Windows one, yes, there is some configuration stuff, but it's more like oh, hey, by the way, we want to upsell you on this thing.
Did Windows get rid of? Do I just not see it anymore, or did Windows get rid of the hey, how much of your data do you want to send us screen? The one where you have to uncheck all the boxes. It's like
you are right. It is gone. The only screen that exists is like the inking and typing. You select like location services and stuff like that. Yeah, there used to be another screen where it was like it had more granular control, but I think they rolled everything up in like the last option of that other screen where it's like, oh, hey, do you want recommendations and stuff like that? So yeah, I get it at some point. Like, even me in the past, I would just like breeze through that and be like, whatever. I don't care. But like, and I would imagine most people do too. They're not going to go and read all the bullet points. So like, I bet in some way they were like, it's too complicated. Let's make it simpler for the user. But it doesn't matter, because that's probably not the reasoning. Because then they would look at all the other junk in there and be like, oh, hey, this is not simple for the user. But yeah, you're right. That screen, I feel like it's actually been gone for a bit though.
Maybe a minute. Yeah.
Well,
okay. So anyway, I reinstalled Windows, got drivers set up, reinstalled games, reconnected everything up to my shared Steam partitions and all that stuff. Everything was back in. I started this at like 9:30 and I was done by 11, so it wasn't too bad. Then I tried.
You were in the middle of a stream, or was
I stopped the stream after it became clear I wasn't going to be able to Fortnite. So. Now, the problem was that installing Windows then messed up Grub for cache. So then I went from having Windows not being able to boot to Linux not being able to boot. And I made a mistake because I went and looked up general Grub fixing guidance instead of distro specific Grub fixing guidance. So the general Grub fixing guidance assumed that you had traditional partitions and not like Btrfs subvolumes for things like /boot and home and all those folders. When I eventually got there, I went through that and made it much worse, just to be clear. And then I was
what does worse look like though? Like
worse means that Windows didn't boot all of a sudden as well.
Again.
And I had to go back to just using the Windows Boot Manager to have any kind of functional computer at all. So then I'm a brain genius occasionally. And I instead of putting fix grub bootloader Linux in the search, I put cache at the end, and it took me straight to a page on the cache wiki, which is an incredibly useful website for people who run cache, because it's all cache specific advice for fixing the things the way that cache has them set up. And there's a whole page on the cache wiki called fixing your bootloader in cache.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it has configurations for each of the bootloaders that it gives you. So like they have like 4 or 5 options, including Refind and Grub and Limine and some other stuff, Systemd. And I followed the Grub instructions. It reconstructed both my Windows and my and my Linux lines on the Grub config automatically after I did that. So the process was basically boot off of a cache distro.
Okay, I was going to ask. Yeah,
use some cache variants of the commands that I'd used to mess it up even worse before. But the cache variants looked for like the ButterFS subvolumes and stuff like that, so it worked right. Now, the bad thing about all of this is that Windows, basically I ended up flip-flopping which boot. I have 2 boot partitions on my main SSD. One is the one that Windows always uses, and Linux just shunts over to that when it boots into Linux. And that's so that when Windows does something to the boot volume, it doesn't wipe out my Grub or Refind or whatever I'm using config.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's great. Really, really good.
But you got that from the cache?
No, I did. I read. This is what I spent reading Rod's books about Refind about. I learned about this a couple weeks ago. We talked about it. It's been a minute though. The problem was they ended up getting flip-flopped because Windows doesn't let you say where you want to put the boot EFI partition. So it just used the one that was available on the disk. And then I had to make another one and put Grub onto that. So I had to rebuild the Grub partition on what was previously the space that was dedicated to Windows. And Windows is now the one of the process of doing that. I messed up the Windows boot partition again.
So that's what, 3 times the Windows got messed up?
I broke Windows, then I broke cache, then I broke Windows again. The good news is I found a really great guide for how to fix Windows, how to just recreate the boot volume, the EFI boot volume on Windows from like by booting into the Windows installer. And when it gets to the point where it's like, hey, do you want to repair Windows or install Windows? You just choose repair, and it gives you, you can get access to a recovery console there. And I was able to just load up disk part, nuke the offending partition from Orbit, recreate it, and then copy the boot files back from my install drive, the install CD, put them back on there, and then everything was groovy, and everything worked right. So
you didn't need to reinstall cache. Cache was still there. It's just you couldn't get to it.
I didn't need to reinstall cache. Cache was still there. I couldn't get to it. I didn't need to reinstall Windows a second time.
But you did.
If anyway. I knew at the beginning of the night what I know now, I could have probably just recreated the Windows boot volume and been fine.
Oh, that would have been the first step. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing that happens on the boot process, and this is what we should have a friend of the show, Brad Shoemaker, on to talk about, because he's good. He has spent a lot of time learning about how EFI boot processes work. And he's probably screaming at his radio right now.
Actually, that's a really good idea. Yeah, but just have an all boot episode.
Yeah, because like there's a thing that happens. Basically, you have to register a boot volume with one of those EFI files in the UEFI. That's what determines what's in that list, and you can use a tool to remove and add things to that list in the UEFI. Oh. Then also that partition has to be set up and formatted properly and tagged as an EFI partition. And then you have to have folders of EFIs and RAM disks, basically, that load the RAM state for the bootloader in a specific place. And if all those things don't line up right and they don't all point to the exact same place, and the UUIDs in the NVRAM for the UEFI don't line up with the UUIDs for the partition, because say you deleted and changed the partition, none of it's going to work.
Okay.
So anyway, the TLDR is it's all working now. And also, while I was doing all that stuff, I went back into the secure boot tutorial again. So I have secure boot working on the desktop again, which means I can play Battlefield 6 again,
good.
which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Is that nice? Do you want to play Battlefield 6 again?
I kind of want to try the Battle Royale. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that they added
so they
that,
rolled out that Battle Royale. And I enjoyed my time with Battlefield 6. It was fun. I mean, I think I'd rather play Arc Raiders realistically, but I'll always try a new Battle Royale.
So
since it's free. Yeah.
Will, at any point during this situation where you're like, wow, I should just have 2 separate drives. One,
I'm going to tell you.
One for each OS?
No.
Did you? No.
Nope.
No, you still not? Okay.
What I thought?
What did you think?
No, because I don't ever want to have to go into the UEFI. It takes so long to get into the UEFI on my desktop. I don't want to do that.
Well, no. The Grub shows my other Windows drive. Like in the laptops that I've used that have.
You're doing
have
exactly
both.
the same thing I'm doing. Now I know how to fix it. It's no problem. It'll take like 10 minutes next time this happens.
I'm saying, but you could still have 2 separate drives, one for Linux, one for Windows, and not have to worry about any of that.
I mean, yeah, I could. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. I learned a lot about how the EFI boot process works, which is useful information.
Always be learning. Okay.
Always be learning. I was punished for trying to play Fortnite in Windows. That seems like actionable, good information. Something like I'm going to think about it now next time. I learned that I shouldn't probably ever mount my C drive from Linux. I'm not going to do that anymore. That's a bad idea.
Well, and why were you were trying to just get some?
I had to get a file off
or?
my desktop. It was literally, I could have taken 5 minutes and rebooted and dumped it into a shared folder on my NAS or something. And I did it the easy way by just mounting that drive in Linux, and I paid the price is my theory on why this happened.
I have a stupid question.
Yeah. Hi.
If you already have Windows loaded on a partition,
Yeah.
could you like VM into it? Could you load it in a VM in Linux? Or no? Is that a thing?
You can boot partitions depending on which hypervisor or virtual machine manager you use. You can do that. There will be downstream consequences because it's going to show different hardware, and it's going to have to it will enumerate all of the fake hardware that the VM uses as like shims between, say, your USB devices and the actual USB devices on the system. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to go through a whole there will be a lot of doots as it detects in all the VM hardware, and then the same thing will happen when you boot back into regular Windows on the metal.
Okay.
I mean, you could run it on a hypervisor. That's the other thing I've been thinking about. I talked to Wendell a little bit about it a couple weeks ago when we had that ITT thing, and he was like, "That's kind of like you're not ready for that yet, bud." Was the vibe I got from him on that. So
you're not ready for that yet, bud. Okay.
Now the other thing I realized is that I could have just loaded up GeForce Now and played Fortnite in GeForce Now on Linux.
Actually, funny you should bring that up. We have a question. I was going to ask it later. But a friend of the show, Ivan R., asked this over in the Full Nerd question channel. But I think it applies here. It asked, can GeForce Now become our saving grace for Linux gaming? No need to worry about kernel anti-cheats, and all client OS has to do is decode video stream. Any OS can do that.
So, yes, with an asterisk. I was able to do it. I had a pretty okay play session. I have a GeForce Now Ultimate account still. From the last time I did a GeForce Now stuff,
which is the highest tier. It's like no wait times. There's no
4K
session
120
length, or there is a session length, but
it's like 8 hours maximum or something.
Okay.
But it's 4K 120 is the thing I was interested in, because you get a high refresh rate
and
high
G-Sync
resolution and G-Sync.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the high refresh rate or 4K to work on the Linux browsers that I had installed. So I tried it on both Chromium and on Firefox, and neither one would do it. I installed that Arch Flatpak that they made for GeForce Now for Steam Deck. That also I couldn't get the high refresh rate. So it could be a Neri thing. It could be a Wayland thing. I didn't really dig into it a whole lot, but that's the next. That's kind of my next frontier for this.
I do think that is a good question, though, because especially, I mean, we've talked a lot about the Steam machine and all that kind of stuff, both here and the Full Nerd, what it means for Linux gaming, like the general dissatisfaction with Windows, and like just feels like so many people are doing what we're doing and trying to look at Linux as a viable option. Steve over at Gamers Nexus has a really good video about him doing his own Linux testing and how fraught it is. But either way, I think a lot of people are looking, and the thing that I keep hearing again and again is usually, oh, hey, well, you don't have access to some of the biggest games on the planet, like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Battlefield 6, stuff like that, because of the anti-cheat stuff. My hope, I'm sitting here crossing my fingers, hoping that maybe Valve can, like just keep doing, the work that needs to be done. And somehow the developers are like, okay, you know what, we're going to take that on as well. Or maybe Valve, gets a dump truck full of cash and backs it up into developers' hands or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but I guess that's another way that money always changes things. But also at the other end, I never thought about this as like, if there are literally just a handful of games that we're talking about here, I mean, I don't know if those games exist on GeForce Now. I do know Fortnite is on there because
Fortnite, Call of Duty, Battlefield 6, all on GeForce Now.
Okay, yeah. So, and in the future, if there is a game that has anti-cheat that requires Windows, then who knows if it's going to be in the library? Like there's no guarantees. But at the same time, I mean, I guess you're potentially getting a diminished experience. It's not 1-to-1. Yes.
Well,
but would it be enough to say, hey, you know what? I don't need Windows as a partition.
So because those GeForce machines are managed, right? There's no, as a user, you can't add software on top of those virtual machines, right? You just connect to, you really can't. You can't even run like beta branches on it. So
true. Well, I mean, there are like the GeForce Now verified games, but then they did have that program earlier this year where it's like, oh, hey, here you can add games from your library that have access, even though it's not verified. I don't remember the name of the program,
but there's still not something you can like. It's not like you could get in and install hack.exe in there.
True. Yeah. No.
So like, there's an argument that NVIDIA can get bypasses for the anti-cheat in the same way that they would on consoles, right?
Yeah.
Because like you don't run kernel level anti-cheat on consoles because nobody has access to inject code on the consoles, and the console vendor makes sure that those machines are pristine before it lets them connect to the system. There are ways to cheat, obviously, on console, but that involves intercepting network streams and stuff like that, or using some sort of hardware hack that writes directly to memory, which is like advanced business. Anyway, my point. I don't remember what my point was, but my point is GeForce Now is, I think, a valid solution to this problem. I want to spend some more time with it, and I want to figure out how I can get 4K 60 working. I might actually put a call into NVIDIA and see if they can help, because I don't understand why that's not working on my machine as it is right now.
I mean, I think it depends on how competitive of a gamer you are. Do you feel like, I mean, like you play Fortnite competitively, do you feel like playing it over GeForce Now would limit your ability to do that?
On the best experiences I've had with GeForce Now, it was pretty indistinguishable, but I also live, 8 milliseconds from one of their data centers.
Oh,
so
right. Yeah.
Like San Francisco, I have a fiber connection. They hook into the AT&T backhaul, and AT&T is my ISP. So it like the thing that it does is it shifts the latency a little bit. So instead of the latency being on ping, and because their connection to the Fortnite data center is probably faster than my connection to the Fortnite data center. So what you do is it just shifts the latency a little bit, and it's something that your brain has to take some time to adjust to. What I don't think I would want to do is play GeForce Now one night and then play Windows the next night, and then play GeForce Now one night and play, because you're gonna, like, your brain adapts to that kind of those latency things over time, those latency changes over time. And if you're constantly bouncing back and forth, you're never going to get good at either of them, I don't think. But I honestly haven't spent enough time with it to say for sure. I'll spend some more time with it this week and report back.
I'm curious. Yeah. Like, and I want to hear from people out there too. Like, have they tried it? What are their experiences? Like, could that be a way, or maybe people are already using that as a way to circumvent, like, having games that require the anti-cheat stuff. I mean, I think the two biggest downsides other than maybe like playability or your ability to play at a high level, whatever, is going to be, your network, right? Somebody like we are literally in the best case scenario, like you just mentioned, like being close to your data center, having a really good connection, 10 gig fiber, that kind of stuff.
You had to rub it in, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I had to. So it's going to depend on your connection stuff, but then also the price, right? Are you then willing to pay? Well, there is a free version. I don't remember the details of the free version.
The free version, we talked about
1080p 60, I think. Yeah. Which, so you could theoretically play that. But I think if you're wanting to play Fortnite, you're probably somebody who wants to be a little more, or Battlefield, right? You want to be more competitive. So are you willing to pay, if you just want to have Windows out of your life, are you willing to pay money to just have access to those games? Right?
Is the Microsoft tax becoming an NVIDIA tax? That seems like not a great trade-off, really.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, but I do wonder, is that enough? Is that enough for people? People would have to do their own math, whether that is or not. I don't think it's worth it personally, because it is easy for me to have both, the dual booting, that's what we're doing. But maybe there are people who are like, nah, I don't want Windows at all. So I don't know.
Well, and if you're only playing, if I was much more single, I play a lot of multiplayer stuff. If I was playing primarily single player stuff, might be a different kind of calculus there too.
Well, but also, I mean, you don't how many single player only games have anti-cheat, kernel level anti-cheat?
Well, they don't, but a lot of them ship with de novo anti-piracy for the first 3 months of release.
I get it.
So those won't work on Linux either. Yeah,
true. I guess I still have yet to dabble into the gaming side of stuff. I will say I have started the process of figuring out how to do that. So
okay,
you
getting there.
Yeah, because I really have just been focusing on work stuff, but the gaming stuff, I do want to get there. I have a plan, and it's going to be definitely one of those oh, hey, I've got 2 weeks off for the holiday break or whatever, and here we go, kind of thing. But
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you want to jump back to you? I've got a couple more. What do you want?
Yeah, my other big one. We'll just ping pong back and forth here.
Okay. New format.
There we go. My other big one, which I was very proud. You came into the office yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, check out this laptop. I've been using this HP ZBook Ultra G1A whatever with Strix Halo," and I was like, "Oh yeah. Check out this Photoshop thing that I was doing." And you're like, "Oh, I don't remember." You made a comment. I wasn't paying attention because I was so excited.
I said, "Oh, you're in Windows. You've given up." And
then I said, "Nah."
Is that the stink of failure coming off of you?
Yeah. And I 3-finger swiped over to the other workspace, which revealed Fedora.
Yeah.
Meaning,
and you had fast fetch running too.
Exactly. Well, to show you, I had to prove it to you. So I know a lot of people are like, geez, wow, Adam is he just keeps, patting himself on the back for doing the most generic, basic stuff. But I'm gonna take pride in this. I set up my first VM. I don't think
You've never done a VM before?
I don't think I have ever done a VM in my life before.
Oh man. Wow.
And I did it in Linux. Luckily I had the help of the people over on Discord. I actually started a new forum. So we have a Linux support forum over on the Discord because my idea was we have our Linux channel, but sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, sometimes people go in there with very specific things and it just dominates the whole chat. Yeah. So somebody, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was like, "Oh, hey, what if we have a forum kind of thing?" So right now we have a Linux forum, and the idea is that we have different topics in there that people can talk about. So I was like, "Oh, I needed help with a VM." And that forum over there is always going to exist, and it's always only going to be about VM. And so somebody could start another thing about
I love it.
The boot managers, right? And it's different than normal chats in Discord because a lot of that stuff it's hard to go back and find. Yes, you can search, but it's sometimes it's mixed in with other chats and stuff. So the idea of the forums over there, that's the idea, is to have clean topic zones. So anyway, so I use this as an example to start it off. And one of our fine folks, Infinite, spelled with numbers as well helped me out. And like, because I wanted to go straight to the Win Apps thing that Wendo was talking about. I love that idea of just having Photoshop run in Linux and just look like it's native. I went over to the GitHub page and I started reading it, and I was like, okay, this might be biting off a little bit more than I can chew. And then I talked to the people in Discord, and they were like, yeah, why don't you just start basic? Why don't you just start with a real basic VM kind of thing? And I was like, okay, why don't we do that? So Fedora does have a built-in VM called Boxes. I did try that, but I ran into an issue. Like, I was able to get the Windows 11 ISO. I was able to start doing some configuration stuff. Unfortunately, it wouldn't go through the Windows install because it was like, oh, hey, you need TPM 2.0. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to enable that in Boxes. And then Infinite in the Discord was like, oh, hey, like, you should just start with like the most basic thing, which is like, what is it? QEMU? Is that what it is? QEMU?
Yeah. QEMU?
Oh, man, I can't find it. Anyway, they just said in the terminal do sudo dnf install at virtualization, which was like a bunch of packages and dependencies, which included virtual manager, which is like a real basic kind of thing, and it's based off of that QEMU, because that's just like I guess that's what everything uses in the back end, like even like WinApps and WinBoat and stuff like that. So he had recommended just start with the basic stuff, just so you know how it's working. Mm-hmm. And it was like the actual, like, I ran into a couple issues, but like for the most part, it just worked. I was able to load Windows. I will say the configuration in that virtual manager system is a little weird because it lets you pick in the initial install thing. It was like, oh, hey, how many CPUs do you want to add to it? And so I was like, oh, 6, like, let's give it 6 cores. Right. And then I got in there and it was literally just running 1 core. And so it took a little time to like, update the system and stuff, but it was running, like Windows was running on 1 core. And then later I went in to do a manual thing. Like I found the deeper kind of stuff. And the way they listed is that I gave it 6 physical CPUs, which Windows couldn't address. It was Windows Home. So like it was just 1 CPU with 1 core.
You needed to give it 6 cores on a single CPU.
Yeah, it was just really weird. The way they worded it was weird. Like, hey, how many CPUs do you want to give it? I get it. Like there are reasons for that.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Technically correct, yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay. So then I added cores. So I went to the cores and I added 6. And then threads was also a little different because I was like, oh, I'll give it 6 cores and 6 threads. So I gave it 6 and 6, and then I went in there and it was 36 cores. And I was like, wait.
Each core has 6 threads.
Well, no, like you do the core is a multiplier. So the CPU is like how many physical cores, and then the threads is a multiplier. So I was like, okay,
up for hyper threading.
Pretty much. So I did 1 CPU, 6 cores, 2 threads. So essentially 12, addressable.
Which is
threads.
Half of your Strix Halo-ish?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And then also, like, the Strix Halo laptop has 128 gigs. So I was able to be like, oh, Windows, you can have 16 gigs. Yeah, whatever. Take whatever you want. And then as I was messing around with it, it was very obvious that it was doing a GPU pass-through thing. So it's called VirtIO, so like virtual IO.
VirtIO, yeah.
Yeah, so essentially it's like passing the GPU through, or no, it's like that's how I'm able to see the window or something like that. I mean, Windows couldn't see a GPU, is just running everything on the CPU, which was fine. But then, I loaded up Photoshop and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is not bad. It's not super snappy. I don't know if I could use it like this, but we'll see. I still need to do more testing. And then I did something real stupid because we were chatting about this, and I was like, what if I had another GPU that I could just plug into this laptop? And I have an eGPU with me here at home. It's a 1X player. I don't remember the name of the eGPU, but it's a 7800.
I'm going to go into the easy end of the pool, he says, and then plugs in the eGPU, a product that like 18 people have bought in the entire world.
I know. I'm just, but it worked. Oh, it actually worked.
This is negative. This is not good feedback for you, Adam.
No, I know. No. I'm not going to do this because ultimately, like, I'm not going to like bring an eGPU around with me just so I have 2 GPUs. I did actually bring home another laptop. This Asus ProArt this has the discrete NVIDIA GPU. This is the one that I had the problems with the driver kind of stuff. So it's already set up. So I'm going to try it here with a discrete GPU and I don't know if I'll give Windows the iGP or Linux will take the iGP or something like that. And then the other one gets the other one. But yeah, the other thing Infinite was like, hey, listen, like just try using it without giving it a GPU. And like, if it works, like if Photoshop does work fine without it, then cool. Then I don't need to worry about having 2 GPUs. But I haven't gotten there yet. So either way, I haven't.
It's going to feel sluggish would be my bet
not Premiere. It's just Photoshop really at this point. So like if I can do what I need to do in Photoshop and do it reasonably well without any hiccups, then I think I can do it. And especially like in the workspace, I full screened the VM and set in Windows like to the native resolution and everything. And I mean, it just worked. Like
and functionally, the only difference between this and like WinBoat or WinApps or one of those things is that they pull out the Windows from the Windows environment, and you don't see the Windows UI really, right? You basically they just know, oh, this is a Premiere window. I know what to do with this. This is a Photoshop window. I know what to do with this, and they pull out. I think actually, when I look at the WinApps page, Premiere is one of the things that isn't listed as super good. As community tested, but oddly After Effects and Audition both are. So anyway, and Photoshop is as well. So I'm glad this is a good solution. I'm stoked that this is working out for you.
Well, and then
does performance feel okay, or is it too early to say?
It's too early to say because I was still in kind of like the configuration stuff. And luckily, once again, shout out to people in the Discord and especially Infinite for helping me, messing around with stuff and making sure the right settings were set. For the virtual IO kind of thing. Like it was good. It didn't feel, it doesn't feel exactly like running it natively. Yeah. But if I can get within like 5 or 10% of it, like and it gets around like having to boot into the Windows partition, like I'll take it. But even if it doesn't on this Strix-Halo laptop, then my next step is to be like, okay, let's try it on a system with 2 GPUs. And if that works, so dedicate 1 GPU to Photoshop and Windows, that's gotta bring it super, super close. Right. So yeah, no, that felt good. I know once again, that's a simple thing is loading a VM, but I did it and it was working, and it was weird to like have a mouse and then all of a sudden the mouse would like click into, like it was almost like falling into a hole. And then sometimes I'd be like, how do I get out of this hole?
Yeah.
But that was fun. Yeah.
That's good.
So I'm one step closer. And once again, I talked about this last week, but all of this is in service of I'm gearing up for CES and I have to have a plan in place, and I really want to use Linux. Like I want to be able to come back and say, hey, you know what? I used Linux the whole time. And I was able to run Photoshop in a VM, and Photoshop, like their Excel, it doesn't matter. I'm not be using Excel there. I need Photoshop. And so if I can get it to run good in the weeks prior to CES and feel good about it, that's going to be great.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So VMs, I did it.
Let's see. I did some more MangoHud stuff. This has become, I feel better after talking to Steve after he posted his video about benchmarking Linux and finding out how much time his whole crew has spent working on this over the last couple of weeks. Because everybody should go watch that video. If you care about Linux benchmarks, it's really interesting. it reminds me of like the late 90s or in early 2000s when we were kind of figuring out as a community how to benchmark stuff. When there really weren't a ton of benchmarks, when running benchmarks meant running like Quake and timing some scripts in Photoshop. Like in the early days of Maximum PC, Gordon and I would make big giant, and the other editors as well, would make like big giant Photoshop scripts that ran like a 200-step process that would upscale and rescale and rotate and flip and all the different things you can do. And then we would literally stand there with a stopwatch and you know, hit the let's see, what the trick was, you hit the thumb on the stopwatch and the mouse at the same time so that the same finger was doing the movement. So you could have the least latency. Same hand was doing the movement. So you didn't have like left hand, right hand bias coming in. Right. And then you had to sit there and watch it for 7 minutes or 10 minutes while it ran on a laptop and not miss the end, or you had to do it again. It was a terrible setup.
That's why Gordon was scarred for life on doing this kind of scripts. And
yeah, and like, just to be clear, on a 10-minute benchmark, it wasn't the end of the world if you were off by half a second or two, even a second or two on a run, because we ran them multiple times. We averaged as results. Yep. But the point is, we were all figuring this out at the same time, right? And it was before. At that time, synthetic benchmarks were both rare and kind of crappy. And like the people that were making those benchmarks were also figuring it out, and they didn't have a concept of like, hey, this should be multi-platform, or this should give the same results on all versions of Windows, or whatever. So it was a different time, and having spent more time with MangoHud, which is also what Gamers Nexus used for their to collect the frame rates and performance numbers for their Linux benchmarks with Bazite, they like. I don't know. Like it just feels a lot like that. It feels like we're figuring out as we go in a way that is we haven't had to do in a long time. Now, I mentioned last week that MangoHud has a weird rainbowy bar on the left side of the screen on Neri. It didn't have that with KDE, and I haven't tried it on GNOME. Apparently, I found out that I can turn off FCAT. We'll fix that. FCAT is frame capture analysis. That's actually what I'm using MangoHud for, so it's not a super useful bit of feedback, but I did try it, and it did fix the problem.
Is it a problem, or is that by design?
I don't know. The weird rainbowy bar on the left side of the screen makes it hard for me to capture. I don't think I would use that for video. Maybe I could crop in a little bit, I guess, on the final video, but...
yeah, maybe we just do a disclaimer of like, hey, you know, it's not fully representative of the video.
Yeah.
Or just leave it, honestly. I mean, like, and if somebody asks, or just be like, hey, listen, there's a glitch on the side, but, you know, I still wanted to show you the whole video.
Yeah. I need to submit a bug. I kind of don't know whether it's a MangoHud bug, or a Neri bug, or a Wayland bug, or a, you know, SDDM bug, or whatever of the 50 other things in the pile. So if people have thoughts about that, I would welcome them. And then the other thing is, I got Steam VR. I managed to get my Steam VR working by just unplugging the VR headset and uninstalling Steam VR. Problem solved. I'm not having the issues where it wouldn't start in Linux. And I moved on with my life.
You uninstalled Steam VR in Linux?
Just uninstalled it entirely and put the headset back in the box. So the problem's solved.
I
played Luminez Arise twice. I was like, I'm pretty good. This has done what I needed to do.
Okay, you're making a
back
joke
in the
here.
box.
Okay, I did not.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait,
sometimes,
how does uninstalling it make it better?
Sometimes the only way to win is to not play at all, Adam. So here we go.
Okay, well.
And then I also fixed the suspend problem that I was having last week on the desktop, where the desktop wouldn't sleep.
I really want to hear about this. People were perplexed.
No, it's an NVIDIA problem. So Cache uses ships the NVIDIA Open drivers by default. Okay. And you have to do a kernel launch flag for NVIDIA on Grub that basically tells it to save the RAM state when you suspend. Otherwise, it doesn't come back up. And there was an Arch Linux forum about it where I'm trying to find the actual solution because I didn't put it on our notes, which was stupid.
Wow. unprofessional.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is, it's NVIDIA-DRM.modeset equals 1 kernel parameter. And that basically is a DRM kernel mode thing. I don't know what it means. All I know is that now I can suspend and the computer comes back to life afterwards, which is nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
You put that in etc/modprobe.d, I believe.
So why would it work so by default on a laptop and not on a desktop?
Because I don't have NVIDIA graphics on the laptop.
Oh, you think if you did have NVIDIA graphics, you'd have... Well,
probably.
No, because I have to... The Lenovo laptop I have has NVIDIA, and then this ProArt has an NVIDIA. I've been able to come back from sleep okay.
Maybe
it's a different
those probably are
sleep state.
pre-configured based on the they recognize the hardware maybe too.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so and actually the thing that I just said is the first thing I tried. The second thing I tried, which actually did work, was I made a file called nvidia.conf in etc/modprobe.d, and I put options space nvidia-drm space fbdev equal 1 on one line, and then another line was options space nvidia space capital N capital V reg lowercase underscore preserve video memory all capital P capital V capital M allocation capital A allocations capital A equals 1. I'll just put this. I'll put this in the Discord if people ask.
Yeah.
That was actually the
that's
one
what worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks to the internet.
It felt like magic to have it just pop back up.
I mean, usually I try not to do stuff that I don't understand what it means necessarily. And I got to the point of the description where they were talking about loading VRAM into memory, and I kind of went cross-eyed for a minute and lost the thread. So I just did what they said and rebooted, and it worked. So I felt like I'd take the dub and move on for that one.
All right, sweet.
You got anything else?
No, not really like that. Yeah. No.
So my homework for next week, it's Thanksgiving week in the US.
Yes.
The Black Friday sales are on. This is the time of year every year when I call Adobe and I'm like, hey, I'm going to cancel Creative Cloud if you don't give me half off, like you're giving all the new customers. And they say no. And then I say, okay, well, I'll just cancel my account and then create a new account because I don't use any of your cloud crap for anything. And I'll just, it's fine. And they're like, okay, we'll give you the discount. I would very, very much like to not give them $300 and spend that either on, DaVinci Resolve or some audio DAC program that I can use on both Linux and Windows. And I've tried a couple of Linux DACs that are not the right kind of DAC. Like there's different you mean
a DAW, like a
DAW,
digital audio workstation?
Yeah, DAW, digital audio works. The one that I tried was like for making like girl talk albums, not for making podcasts. And okay, so I did download a bunch of Fortnite song stems and start futzing around with that, and it was pretty good, but doesn't solve hey, I need something that I can sync up the podcast. So the workflow that we use for the Tech Pod is that I run all of the audio on that through the LUTs filter to get same audio levels for everybody, even guests. And then we run basically the same audio tool chain that has like gates and compressors and all that stuff on there. And I'm fine changing that. I'm a little worried about 300 episodes into that show, changing the audio tenor of the podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's for a good cause, though.
Look, Brad is a big fan of not paying $300 a year for the software, for software that we use for like 30 minutes a week, probably. I would love alternatives. If people have recommendations for alternatives, I would love them. I've tried Reaper. I can't even with Reaper because it's slow and it's
Isn't that more like music production too, rather than audio?
Yeah. And like Audacity is great for recording and chopping stuff up, but it doesn't have the filter and it doesn't have the tool chain that we need to clean up nasty audio. I would pay for like Isotope or something like that, but I don't think they have Linux versions.
Can you use VSTs in Audition?
Maybe
because you might be able to solve this with like a plugin. Like if Audition can load plugins, then you can do this on a plugin rather than in the actual DAW itself for at least leveling and compressing and stuff like that, right? So that might be a way.
Huh.
And Audition works. I mean, already works great on both Linux and Windows.
It can use VSTs. I might ask you for help with that then, because that I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, because I mean that's how I would do it. You can I mean, it depends on what plugins you want to get, but a lot of them are just kind of just buy once, right? And it's okay, you buy some sort of nice leveling plugin, and it just helps you level, and then you get a nice compressor, and
the other thing, Audacity, like, can you do? Because the other thing I do in Audition, because it's really good at this, is stretch, because the files always end up slightly different lengths.
Yeah,
and that's the other part of it.
I don't know. Like I barely know Audacity. I just use it for recording as well. But it got to have some sort of time stretch. I feel like that's like table stakes for a DAW at this point.
It looks like they do.
It might even be AI, or it might take advantage of your NPU.
I don't have an NPU, so I'm fine. I think. Okay. It looks like I'm looking at the instruction. It looks like you can do that. So.
Okay. I think it's a good stop. Yeah. I think it's a good place to start. I like that.
Yeah. We'll kick off there and see. And I can always spend $300 and push it off another year if I need to. So,
also, if I can give you some homework, I think you might want to try out Cosmic, or just poke around a little bit before our interview. I have the Futzing
laptop sitting directly next to me that at some point this weekend I'm going to install it on before we talk to them next week, because I want to spend some time with it. Like
I have my own personal thoughts on it. And actually, some people in our Discord were chatting about it today as of this recording, and being like, "Oh, hey, you know what? I've been running it on Fedora. I'm really liking it." Some people are like, I don't really like the look of the windows and stuff like that, or some of the graphical effects it does. Like, there is some stuff for me personally that I'm like, I actually do like the finger gestures to be able to see everything on my screen, or reveal the dock, stuff like that, or flip workspaces. And by default, it doesn't have any of that on. You can only really launch an application from either. I mean, I loaded dash to dock to work on it, or you just hit the super key and type something in and launch it there. So it definitely is different. Definitely different than Pop OS. Definitely different than like GNOME. It has some of its own stuff on there, even though it feels more like GNOME than KDE for sure. It definitely has its own touches on it.
Does it have a portal? So one of the things that Neri does is it has portals for GNOME, not necessarily extensions, but systray apps. So apps that go in the GNOME systray will show up in the Neri systray, because it just snags those, I guess, API hooks or whatever, and fires into them. I wonder if they're doing the same thing, or if it's living in its own space. Yeah, you should check it out. I've mostly just been using GNOME extensions, and it works pretty straight up. They organize it a little bit differently. Default GNOME has the time and notifications in the center. They actually move the time, or I moved the time over, and you can have different stuff in the middle. Then the other thing I want to try for homework is saving my .config folder and or other home folder bits that are important but not going to contain privileged information on GitHub. So a lot of people do this. They save their Neri profile, their Neri config and stuff like that on a place that you normally would share code, because it's really easy to commit text files, and these are all just flat text files. And that would mean that building this machine back, if I tear it down, is a much easier process than, that backs up the state of the machine kind of in a way that's important and seems useful. And you can do things like have hooks that push the changes up when you reboot automatically, and pull the new changes down while you're booting up and stuff like that. So anyway, I would love to hear that too. It's funny, the past couple of weeks on my homework, I've had the idea of, how do I copy over
like a configuration, right? Like I have a desktop here, I have a laptop that I take into work, but I realized like as I've lost access to my main Fedora install on that framework laptop, I was like, I don't really have, like, it's like, I don't keep like anything that's mission critical. I don't keep on a device.
You use an external drive or something, right?
External drive or the cloud. Right. And so like at any point, I don't want to lose anything. So like, I'm not missing anything there. I didn't have to like go into my home directory and be like, oh, I got to really get this file, because it's just not how my workflow is. Like for me, it's more like, oh, if I need to rebuild the configuration, that's the annoying part, where it's like, hey, you know what? I've got all the extensions. I've got, you know, the way I like to have things organized. Here are the apps that I like to have installed. That is more the headache, right? It's like, oh man, I got a fresh install. I got to recreate this stuff. Number one, some of it I don't even remember how I recreated, whatever.
Gotta take those notes.
Yeah. Well, so actually, so that is my homework, and I have been working on it. I have a separate notes tab in our Notion for like a fresh install, like what that looks like for me, like what I do. So I've actually been trying to keep notes on like how I have things configured, where like what applications I have by default, things like that. So we talked about this a little bit last week of like people, if they want to see kind of like what we have on our systems, like we still need to do a video where we kind of show what our systems look like. I know people have asked about that, but also at the same time, having some sort of living document that, you know, we're cataloging all these fixes and changes and learnings throughout the time of this podcast, I think really is helpful, not only for people to, you know, help follow along with this, but also just for me to look back on and be like, oh crap, what did I do on this?
How did I do this? Yeah.
So
maybe we should do a newsletter of the podcast. I don't want to volunteer anybody, but I know Elena loves doing newsletters and podcasts, so this would be right up her alley. I think. She's wanted to get involved in the Linux train. So,
and then what if we do a podcast talking about the newsletter of the podcast?
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it just only makes sense, right?
This is the best idea we've ever had.
So yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to play some Fortnite. I'm going to install Cosmic. I'm going to figure out Audition. And I'm going to, if I have time, I'll look at the GitHub to save the config folder and stuff. The problem is like some of my config stuff is machine specific and some isn't. Like I don't want, obviously like the monitor section of my Neri config file is specific to the laptop or to the desktop. So I might have to do some shenaniganry to figure that out. But anyway.
Okay. And yeah, so the rest of my homework is continuing with the CES prep. I'm going to continue to try, you know, making sure the VM works. If I need a system that has dual GPUs, I've got those laptops on hand. I can switch over to that. So yeah, really dive into like specifically what I need. And I think even though I like the idea of the WinApps thing of just having Photoshop run natively, I'm okay going into CES with just a basic VM and just, you know, sometimes learning that kind of thing first. Cause
well, that HP has enough, either the HP or the ProArt, either one of those have enough juice to run a 32 gig VM, which is all you're going to like. You'll be plenty good for Photoshop with that, right? With the kind of templates and stuff you guys use.
Right. Yeah. So like I'm trying to, like, the other downside of that HP laptop is it's 14-inch. Like I would like a bigger screen, whatever, you know, that's a whole separate thing. But yeah, like the Strix Halo grunt of it is awesome, other than the fact that it's only one GPU. And then, you know what, like, yes, I do have plans in place to get Linux up and running on my gaming PC. You know, that's a longer term thing that I'm working on, but I do want to try out GeForce Now. I also have a GeForce Now Ultimate, which was provided by NVIDIA. So like I have access to it, so I should try it. I've tried it out on the Steam Deck, but I've never tried it out on anything else. So I am curious if like maybe I can get the G-Sync stuff working on my end. But
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it for the show. So yeah, check back next week for your fix of Linux talk here on Dual Boot Diaries. If you want to subscribe and listen to the show, then go over to anywhere RSS feeds can get pointed to, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music. Did I say
Downcast, Overcast, Deezer, iHeartRadio,
I don't know if we're
Spotify.
on Downcast or Over. One of those died.
Oh, Downcast.
I think it was
maybe
Downcast
died.
Yeah, but yeah, Deezer, iHeartRadio. Anyway, if we're not on one of those services and you want us to be on a service, let us know. We will try to sign up for it. Also, for people who are just listening on audio, we do have a video version of this podcast over on YouTube. So if you subscribe to @The Full Nerd Network, we have our podcast in a video version there. You can see our faces. We're not showing anything really. We're talking about maybe being able to show some
PG.
stuff, but right now it's just us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're not showing our actual.
Oh, you meant the Linux
computers.
stuff.
Yeah.
I was confused there.
Yeah. It's just our pretty faces. So if you want to follow along there, subscribe over there. Also, Will and I are on a podcast together called The Full Nerd.
That's true.
If you want to hear about all the new news about DIY desktop hardware, that is very much a hardware-based podcast. If you're into it, if you are ever thought about building a PC, if you think about upgrades or anything like that, we have a weekly podcast over there. Also,
find out where you get cheap RAM these days. It turns out.
Yeah, well,
we don't. You can't.
Spoilers,
is the answer.
no.
Sorry, spoilers.
Also, Will has a podcast as well called Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod with one Brad Shoemaker from Nextlander, and you guys just kind of cover high level technology stuff wherever the wind blows.
Yeah, we do single topic deep dives and occasional news roundups and. Kind of news, commentary, and education is the idea. So, and that's at techpod.content.town. I would add, if people have questions or things that they want to see video of, like I know we've had some requests for video of like what our setups look like and stuff like that. Like I would love suggestions or recommendations or questions related to that, because I think maybe not between now and CES, but I think after CES I would like to ramp up some video when we get into the new year.
Definitely.
For the Linux stuff. I think it's time, and the interest seems to be there. So
also right now, I mean, we are pre-recording these episodes for a number of reasons, and then the video version actually goes up as a premiere on YouTube. So if you wanted to hang out with Will or I, depends on the timing. Yeah. And then the other fine folks who are watching the pre-recorded video live, you can do that over there. But also, I think there could be an opportunity where maybe we have some sort of Q&A episodes or something where we do that live. Not as the main episode, but supplemental kind of stuff.
I will say last Friday was the first time I've gotten to hang out, because usually you push it live while I have another conflicting meeting. And while I was in that chat, that's when people were helping me fix the Grub NVIDIA thing.
Oh, nice.
And it ended up being it was cool to have a conversation about the conversation we had that fixed the conversation we had. And I did my homework while I was watching the show. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. So anyway, thanks everybody. If you are celebrating Thanksgiving, then I'm thankful for you, and hopefully you have some good food. Well, actually, this is going up after Thanksgiving, so it's going up on Black Friday. So get all the deals. Yeah. I hope you ate the good food. Hope you find the hella deals.
Got a laptop for your Linux experimentation. Let's go.
There you go. And we're counting down the days to the end of the year. So yeah, let's finish out the year of Linux strong, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.